Now, why is it that the system brushes off low testosterone? They just don't give a shit. Well, my friend Dr. Ken Berry said to me, and I quote, he said, there's a subset of the population that believes that the government know all about men with low testosterone, but they don't care. Why? Because when your T's low, you tend to roll over and take it. He said, can you imagine trying to govern a population of men with optimized testosterone? That would not go too well for you if you were the government. Because you know what T does? It significantly lowers fear and anxiety and pushes up confidence, courage, and optimism to fight for what you believe in. And my wife, she looked at my life, ever since we were married 28 years ago, and she saw a bit of a pattern. She saw me suffer with panic attacks and anxiety. She saw me get fat. She saw me become lazy and tired and just completely be crushed as a man. She saw that happen. And she knows what I'm like now. And looking back to what I was like then to what I am now, she said, it's like the lifestyle that we've been told to live is that of farm animals. The system has us as farm animals. So they're giving us just enough food and not quality food to fatten us up, to give us enough energy. So we pay our taxes, we pay into super, and by the time we get to 65, we've got enough spending money for about 10 or 15 years. And that's supposed to be the best time of our life when we're retired. But because our body and mind are turning to mush ever so slowly that we don't even notice, we develop dementia, we develop Alzheimer's, and they ship us off to a nursing home to live out the rest of our poor existence. I didn't sign up for that shit, and I'm sure you didn't either. And that's what these 6 videos are all about, shining the torch on the system and showing you how to pivot away from the system and live the testosterone lifestyle. So that V8 engine inside you can roar. It'll lower fear and anxiety, push up confidence, courage, and optimism, and give you the body that you want. So let's hit it. The testosterone blueprint. Over the next 6 videos, going to unpack exactly that. This is the first video. We have to demand more. We have to demand more testosterone. So we're going to do that on this video here today, but we're just going to unpack the idea that maybe the system isn't too concerned about us getting the results we want in life. Maybe the system has got us in this sheep pen trying to control us with fear and anxiety. Now, just to entertain that idea for just a moment, listen to this.
It's a classic example of exactly what you just explained.
Yeah. And there's a subset of the population in the low carb sphere who believe that the government understands everything you and I just said about cholesterol, and that they actually like it for men and women to have a very low testosterone level, because when your T's low, you tend to just roll over and take it, don't you?
That's it.
Could you imagine trying to govern a population that had optimized testosterone levels, and you were trying to, in some way, force them to do something they didn't want to do, or force them to do something that was just wrong? That would not go well for you if you were the government.
No. Well, when you get a taste of what real energy feels like, and the V8 inside you is roaring, the testosterone and all the hormones are popping, you don't want to go back.
Now, I don't know about you, but I'm sure as hell not going to roll over and take it. I want to have the lean muscular body. I want to have the energy, and I want to be able to kick ass in life. I've got a big game to play, and I'm sure you have too. So we've got to do things differently than what the system recommends. As Einstein said, blind belief in authority is the greatest enemy of the truth. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. Now, there's lots of research on testosterone, and unfortunately, the system just brushes it off. They don't give a shit. But have a look. Sexual and non-sexual symptoms of testosterone deficiency can negatively affect the quality of life and cause considerable general health concerns. Why are they brushing it off? I don't know. Maybe it's got something to do with what Donald Rumsfeld said way back in the day. There are known knowns. So the system says, no, men, your testosterone is going to decline as you age. Your energy is going to decline as you age. Is that the truth? And there are known unknowns. There's things we know that we don't know. And the worst and most insidious one of all are the unknown unknowns. So for a lot of people, they are living the low testosterone and energy lifestyle. The system has delivered a lifestyle to us, delivered on a Trojan horse to lower testosterone, all right? And that increases fear and anxiety. Why? Because as you'll soon see, testosterone, when it's above a certain level, significantly lowers fear and anxiety. And it makes you want to rise up and fight for what you believe in. I don't know about you, but I want the big T working for me naturally, consistently, ripping off the body fat and helping me attack the day and just kick ass. So a couple of videos here from Dr. Ken.
But just focusing on low testosterone, yeah, the classic symptoms are fatigue, no get up and go, no drive, no drive anywhere, no drive at the office, no drive, in the yard or the garden, no drive in the bedroom. Just you don't really care about doing a good job at anything. You just kind of you get by to get along. Weight gain is very common. You're tired all the time, yet you don't really sleep very deeply during the night. Belly fat is a huge, even if you're not overweight, you're still going to have a little belly pooch. It's very classic. You can start to develop man boobs, which I have a YouTube video. You know, that video is
that was me. Yeah.
2 million views or something, because having man boobs is so common in the world today that there are over 2 million men who've watched my video on YouTube about it, if not 3. All those things are symptoms of low testosterone. And there's a long list of prescription medications that you might be taking from your doctor, your doctor that you trust, that could actually be plummeting your testosterone levels. I've got a YouTube video about medications that lower testosterone. In case any of you guys are taking a medication, you can watch that video and make sure you're not taking one that does, by definition, lower your testosterone. But if a man has all these symptoms, he's got to get his testosterone checked, number one. And number two, he's got to start eating a proper human diet, which consists of the 5 steps I talked about earlier. Yeah. And then eating things that our DNA know is real food, because the word food is very often misused in modern society. Food should mean something that is full of nutrition, tastes good, and does not cause symptoms or conditions or inflammation.
What do you think of that? Do you have any of those symptoms? Do you want to fix this problem? Well, you can. Now, this video here, we feel like a lazy loser. We get to the end of the day, we're emotionally and physically spent, cognitively dusted. Listen to this video. But we shouldn't have to, and it's not our fault. We were born into this mess, weren't we, Ken? This has been happening for a long time.
Yeah. And let me say this, Mark, because I think it's important. The average guy, the average teenage boy, the average 20-something, 30-something-year-old man, they're going to beat themselves up. It's never going to occur to them that it's their diet and that it's the plastic that all their foods come in. They're not. And so, because even if you're not a Puritan, we still, in modern society, in Western society, we have all these puritanical beliefs. You're a glutton. You're a sloth. You're a loser. You suck. You're lazy. For years, I thought I was just lazy.
Yep.
Right? I thought I'm just a loser, lazy. I need to grow up. I need to get my shit together. And that wasn't it at all. I had hyperinsulinemia. I was developing prediabetes. I was chronically inflamed. I felt like shit every day. I wasn't lazy. And now that I've corrected all those things at 53 years of age,
50.
I'm more productive now at 53. I have more energy, more get up and go, more motivation, more ability to just stick to stuff than I had at 23 or 33. when I was 23 and 33, I thought I was just a lazy loser. I
Yeah.
did not realize that I was poisoning my own body and my own mind with the food that I was given to eat or that I chose to eat, and the plastic wrap and the plastic everything that all of my food came in. I had no idea that that was what was wrong with me. I was blaming myself instead of blaming the true culprit, which was my food and the packaging my food came in.
So, the system, it's actually, my wife said to me, it's like we're farm animals. They give us just enough energy. They tell us what to eat, how to eat, when to eat, all of that shit. They tell us to stay indoors, don't do any of this shit and go out in the sun or any of that. And we pay our taxes year after year, decade after decade. We get to 65 with just enough spending money for about 10 years until our mind and body turns to mush and ship us off to a nursing home. I don't know about you, but I didn't sign up for that lifestyle. I want to kick ass for a long time. So let's unpack this a bit further. Now, this video is all about demanding more muscle, more challenges. We've got to train smarter. We've got to push up nitric oxide, and we've got to demand more growth hormone. So that's what this video is about. Why would you want more muscle? Well, the more muscle you've got, the more testosterone your body has to make to support that muscle. And if we train correctly in the gym to boost testosterone and keep cortisol at healthy levels, we can continually put on as much muscle as we can genetically. And the reason why you don't want low testosterone is what you see on screen there. The adverse effects of low testosterone and DHEA. So your muscles will atrophy. Over here to the right, it's called sarcopenia. So if you don't lift the weights, your muscles have no reason to grow and your testosterone will decline. So we have to lift the weights, but we have to lift it in a way to boost testosterone, not cortisol. We need cortisol, but at healthy levels. So if you have a look here, inactive 70-year-old, hardly any muscle. Active 70-year-old, plenty of muscle. So we've got to demand more. And another reason you want to demand more is because you don't want your manhood to shrink. On screen there, it's a pretty scary thought. And this is what the system says is supposed to happen to men, but it's not, as you'll soon see. Now, this slide here is quite concerning. All right. So when you've got lots of inflammation, and most people have, and we'll show you how to get rid of the inflammation as we progress through these videos, but it inhibits testosterone production and it contributes to the development of hypogonadism. So low T concentrations are strong predictors of frailty, disability, cardiovascular events that negatively influence muscle mass. And this is what the system has for us. This is what they've got designed for us. And this is what's happening to a lot of men. Now, the biggest reason why you don't want inflammation too high is this. This is Dr. J, and he's my advisor and mentor, and this is what he said about inflammation. I'll just make sure I've got the sound optimized here. There we go. Check this out. So inflammation, no muscle mass. In cortisol, the same thing is true. Now, testosterone right here. Now, that gentleman there, the overweight one, is that his fault? Is that really his fault? Maybe he's listening to the system and living the estrogen lifestyle instead of the testosterone lifestyle. Because as you can see here, testosterone significantly reduces adipose tissue formation, the accumulation of body fat. And up the top here, low concentrations of T correlate with metabolic syndrome, cardiovascular disease, and increased mortality. So why is the system brushing it off? It just doesn't make any sense. And what really grinds my gears is that a high androgen level, and our grandfathers for a man my age back in the 1940s had an average of about 800, and now that's considered high, and it used to be average. That's something to think about. Inhibits adipose tissue deposits, improves insulin resistance and glucose tolerance. And it exerts a primary anti-inflammatory effect. So it's doing a lot of heavy lifting. Now, Professor Huberman, he said this several times on his podcast. There's lots of research out there to show it. There are men in their 90s, which is not rare, that are making as much testosterone and dihydrotestosterone as they were in their 20s. So is the system working against us? It sure seems like it. Now, this is what Dr. J said our testosterone needs to be at for men. This is the borderline.
And my age, I'm 49, so I guess mine should be around about 800 if I'm correct.
Yeah, the most doctor, if you get below 500, I think it's a big problem. Better fix it, like immediately.
Yeah. Now, if you don't know who Dr. J is, he did a 5-year PhD on hormones and cholesterol, and he crawled through all the data all the way back to the 1940s and found that if you're 500 and above, you're safe. Your manhood's safe. You're not going to get fat. You're going to have plenty of energy and you're going to be able to rise to challenges. And the biggest reason for that is because testosterone lowers fear and anxiety and it increases confidence, courage, and optimism. We're being denied as men. The system is taking our confidence, our courage, and raising fear and anxiety. And a lot of people think it's to control us. What do you think? Now, as you can see on this screen here, in 1987, 89, testosterone for men, my age, was just a bit below the 550 mark there. Interesting. Now, 2002, 2004, she's below 400. Now, if you look here, 1990, the percentage of obese adults in the United States was still relatively lean. 2018, completely different picture. So what testosterone does is it helps us rise to challenges. So when you rise to a challenge, you make testosterone. For most men, unfortunately, as it was for me, they're making cortisol. And when cortisol's up a bit too high, that lowers and inhibits testosterone production. So we have to be able to rise to challenges. As Professor Sapolsky says there, testosterone, when it's pumping, when you're being challenged, you make testosterone. So that's why we have to rise to challenges. And in these video series, I'll show you how to do that. But what we have to understand is that cortisol has a very tight regulation to stimulate testosterone production. So too high inhibits testosterone production in your testes, but you get it just right. When you rise to a challenge through mindset, you can do this through physiology too, you stimulate testosterone production. So you've got two kinds of stress. When you rise to a challenge, it's called eustress. You pump out the good stuff. When you're in distress, which is what I call negative stress, you pump out cortisol. And cortisol makes us feel like shit. Absolute garbage. As I learned from Professor Sapolsky, cortisol at those levels, too high, foster negative emotion. So what the whole goal is to get you from negative stress, where you're losing muscle mass and your manhood, across to positive stress. So when you're in the gym, wherever you are, when you're rising the challenges, you're over there pumping out the good stuff. So let's just quickly have a look at the power of testosterone. We'll start piecing this all together. So testosterone, when you get it optimized consistently, significantly slows fat accumulation, improves insulin resistance, has a primary anti-inflammatory effect, significantly reduces fat mass. It's putting a lot of energy into the system. And it's a status hormone. So as Sapolsky says, it helps you rise to challenges and take life on. It lowers fear and anxiety, increases confidence, courage, and optimism, increases strength and muscle mass and bone, sexual performance and fertility, and makes effort feel good. So why are they telling us to don't worry about testosterone? Why is the system saying that? I have no clue, but I don't care too much for the system anymore. I do things completely differently. So if you want the lean muscular body, you want to better rise to challenges and build a life, build a legacy for your family, this is what we need to do. Testosterone is so important for men. And I have got no clue why the system brushes it off. So what we also have to start doing is training and eating smarter. Now, what I mean by that is if you train way too hard, you push up cortisol and you drop testosterone. So in future videos, I'll show you how to train in the gym to boost testosterone and keep cortisol at healthy levels. Now, this research paper down here, they got elite bodybuilders who were not taking the juice and they energy restricted them, and it significant decreases in testosterone. So we have to be eating enough quality calories to make sure testosterone is in the up position. This is how we're going to demand more testosterone. So what we have to think about, there's two things that we require. We have to have enough free testosterone. Serum testosterone is great, but if you've got low free T, you're not going to build a lot of muscle. You're not going to be able to feel the cognitive effects of testosterone, lowering fear and anxiety. The second thing we've got to have switched on is this pathway called mTOR, and I'll unpack that in a moment. But what is very interesting is how we build muscle. So the first thing that happens is free T comes into the muscle cell. Number one, it hits a transcription factor. Now, this transcription factor then promotes, number two, a pathway into the nucleus of the DNA. Now, it hits specific genes in that nucleus, and those genes transcribe mRNA proteins. These mRNA proteins come out and build muscle. Clearly, it's much more complex than that, but that's the basic idea. Then you can build muscle, and, who doesn't want that? So we have to make sure we've got this right. A couple of research papers down here. First one, a low protein diet causes significant reductions in body weight, muscle mass, testes, shrink, epidermis, and seminal vesicle weight and serum testosterone. So what does the system say that we should do? Low protein. They also say we should have low fat. Again, low fat diets, low testosterone. So we've got to make sure we're getting quality essential fatty acids and proteins into our body. So let's just unpack this mTOR pathway here. Now, it's a bit of a catch-22, and I'll explain why in a moment. But what we've got to do to make sure we hit this pathway, now I learned this from Dr. Rhonda Patrick, PhD. This mTOR pathway, it's called mechanistic target of rapamycin, and some people call it mammalian target of rapamycin, but it's got two complexes. Complex 1, which is driven up by nutrition, and namely the amino acids leucine. And complex 2 is upregulated, boosted through the roof when you train in the gym, providing that you boost testosterone and keep cortisol at healthy levels. So when you come out of that gym, you are primed to start packing on the muscle. So if we do things right, that's what we can achieve. So the first thing we need to do is train in the gym to boost testosterone, not cortisol, keep it at healthy levels. Then we have to have enough quality amino acids at the right levels. Calories can't be too low. Then we need free testosterone in the up position and cortisol, leptin, and insulin at healthy levels. Then if you think about it, if we continue this pattern day after day, month after month, we can pack on the muscle, keep testosterone high, and kick ass in life. Now, the biggest problem that I've seen people make is that they just don't understand that testosterone can be converted into estrogen. That's right. And everything you see on screen there, 1 through 5 here, is what does that. So as you can see in this research, A is for androgens. So you've got DHEA, you've got testosterone, and dihydrotestosterone. Now, any of those 5 things will take it through an enzyme called aromatase and turn it into estrogen. We feel like shit. We go into fat storing mode. There's no muscle building gone from that point on. So if oxidative stress and inflammation are too high, no testosterone, and you're wasting it. If your estrogen receptors are wrongly activated by estrogen-like endocrine disrupting chemicals or way too many phytoestrogens, we're out. Glucocorticoids, namely cortisol. That's right, when cortisol's up too high, you're taking your hard-earned testosterone, all your androgens, and turning them into the female hormone, estrogen. Now, there's some research out that suggests that a high-fat meal can bias that enzyme aromatase to be upregulated and turn T into estrogen. Now, the next one is the easiest one to fix, which is the omega index, and I'll unpack that in a moment. But if you eat the wrong fats, we become chronically inflamed, and I'll show you that in a moment. Now, this one here I learned from Huberman, and it was kind of shocking when I heard him speak about it. But he said, and I quote, "I want to repeat that it's not testosterone itself that triggers aggression. It's testosterone being aromatized into estrogen within the brain and binding to these estrogen receptor-containing neurons in the ventral medial hypothalamus that evokes aggression." So cortisol goes up, we feel like shit, takes your T, turns into estrogen, and we get aggressive. So that's not a cool idea. Now, this is the omegas, right? So when you eat the wrong fats, over time, your index goes to shit. And this is what we can expect. And the system promotes a lot of omega-6 and hardly any omega-3. And this is how we get screwed up. So when you've got this index out of whack, you've got chronic low-grade inflammation. You've got serotonin depletion, so there goes your happy brain. You've got increased cortisol production. So as you can see, we've got to get this index correct. So there's more information in the caption below about how to do that. It's one of the easiest things to fix. Now, the next thing we have to understand is that thyroid hormone is the key to it all. And I'll show you why that is in a moment. But again, if we have a low-calorie diet right here, thyroid hormone comes down. And stress, so whether that's stress in the body or stress in the mind, thyroid hormone comes down. Then you've got toxins, infections, kidney and liver dysfunction, and you've got medications that the system says that we should have. Again, over here, you've got stress, medications, fluoride, pesticides, mercury, heavy metals, and autoimmune disease. And this is huge. So if you've got food sensitivities, your thyroid comes down. So what thyroid hormone does is it increases amino acid and protein synthesis. It also puts more transporters on your muscle cells and other cells for glucose. So you've got better glucose tolerance and also amino acid transportation. It increases the enzymes in your body to make more energy, to detox faster, and to make testosterone faster. It increases fat breakdown, so you're losing body fat fast. And it also increases the amount of LDL receptors you have on your liver to recycle cholesterol faster, as you can see on this research paper. So I don't know why the system doesn't say, well, let's start with your thyroid hormone to fix your cholesterol. Why don't they do that? I don't know. And it does a lot of other things too, but let's just focus in on this stuff here, right? So T3, which is the active thyroid hormone, increases Leydig cell, which are your testicles. They put more transporters, receptors on those boys downstairs. And they also increase the levels of sterogenic enzymes to make more testosterone. So let's just have a look at how that works. So let's think about it. You've got more transporters on your testicles to make testosterone. So what happens is your brain makes a peptide protein hormone called luteinizing hormone. So luteinizing hormone comes into the bloodstream, makes its way downstairs. Now, if you've got a lot of transporters, LH is going to rush into the old ball sack there, and you can make a lot of testosterone. Now, the next thing that it does is it puts more enzymes right? You got more of these enzymes to make more testosterone. So think about that. Why don't we start with thyroid hormone to boost testosterone? This is what we need to start thinking about. Now we're moving on to boosting growth hormone and nitric oxide. The reason why we want to boost growth hormone is because it rejuvenates and repairs the organs, and I'll show you that research in a moment. And nitric oxide is a booster for testosterone. So this step number 3 here, this is a pathway. So when you've got optimal nitric oxide, it boosts testosterone through the roof, but it also causes vasodilation, so better blood pressure. Again, why isn't the system focused on things like this to fix blood pressure? I don't know. So inside this book here by Nathan S. Bryant, PhD, he talks about nitric oxide. And listen carefully to this. So this single molecule, right, imagine for a moment that it can dramatically improve your health and you can maintain normal levels of it within your body throughout your life through diet and lifestyle. This single molecule can prevent high blood pressure, hypertension, combat disease that damages your heart, brain, kidneys, and keeps your arteries young, flexible, prevent, slow, reverse the buildup of artery clogging plaques. So why aren't they talking about this? The mind boggles. Now, the thing about nitric oxide that you might know about, it's got a precursor that says make nitric oxide. And that precursor is a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine. Now, here's the interesting thing. If you don't have enough choline in your diet, and not many people do, you can't make optimal levels of nitric oxide because it is the precursor, as you can see over here on that. So over time, when you get less and less nitric oxide, you can't, as Dr. Nathan Bryant says here, your arteries become clogged. Nitric oxide is one of the things that helps get rid of that clog. And as you can see here, it just builds up and builds up over time. And when that happens, you're not going to make a lot of testosterone. You're going to have high blood pressure. So it's a mess. The system is a complete mess. And those, as you see on screen there, are the choline-rich foods. And we're told not to eat them. Why is that? It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's like they want to give you drugs from Big Pharma to fix a bullet hole with a Band-Aid. That's what it looks like to me. I don't know about you, but I want to do things the way that the body can be optimized. Now, another hormone we want to push up is growth hormone. Now, as Matthew Walker, PhD, he's a neuroscientist and he's a sleep researcher. So as he says here, without growth hormone replenishing the lining of your blood vessels called the endothelium, they're slowly shorn and stripped of their integrity. Vessels will rupture, heart attack and stroke become very common. Now, 2 things that inhibit the release of growth hormone is elevated glucose, right there, and elevated insulin. And most people are eating the foods that raise this constantly, so they can't repair the protective lining of their arteries. And to make matters worse, they're not having enough choline to make nitric oxide, so they get clogged up arteries. I just can't understand why the system doesn't focus in on this. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Now, another thing the growth hormone does, up the top here, research paper, potently stimulates the release of free fatty acid from adipose tissue, our fat cells. So it's ripping off the body fat. It works alongside thyroid hormone and testosterone to build muscle. And one of the most important things we need to do when you're rebuilding yourself is to understand that growth hormone rebuilds organs, repairs them, the brain, the heart, the blood vessels, the endothelium, which we just talked about, the ovaries if you're a chick, the testicles if you're a man, the intestines, the kidneys, muscle, including the smooth muscle of the penis, bone marrow. Now, bone marrow makes white blood cells. And these white blood cells are like little Pac-Man. They go around eating viruses and bacteria. And cartilage, so your joints don't deteriorate. You need to get hip replacements and knee replacements. Then the liver, it rejuvenates the liver and the central nervous system. So you got better, faster, sharper brain and reaction time. So as you can see, it's a bit of a mess out there. And again, I just don't understand why the system brushes off low testosterone. So listen to this from Dr. Amy B. Killen. When I first spoke to Dr. Amy B., I was blown away when she said this.
Right, that's right.
It's also things that are even more important. We know that men who have lower testosterone levels, they tend to have higher mortality rates in general. So all-cause mortality is higher in men with the lowest quartile of testosterone levels. So we're going to see increases in things like cardiovascular disease. So heart attacks, strokes are going to go up generally if you have low testosterone, increased diabetes, increased obesity, increased problems with mood disorders, depression, insomnia, anxiety. All of that goes up as you have lower testosterone levels. And then certainly sexual dysfunction. So everything from low libido to low sperm counts and infertility are all associated with low testosterone. So it's not something that we should just brush off as being like, it's no big deal. Like, it's kind of a big deal. It actually means that our men are getting less and less healthy, and they're more and more likely to suffer from some kind of disease problem.
So why does the system just brush it off? Why? We shouldn't have low testosterone. As you can see, we've got to push it up. We have to push it up. Now, right there, if you've got low testosterone, what are the chances of you having a lean muscular body? What are the chances of you lowering fear and anxiety so you can rise up and fight for what you believe in? What are the chances? So basically, neurotransmitters and hormones have a signature, and they'll either create the signature of winning, effort, and courage, or the signature of quitting. And unfortunately for most people, including myself in the past, that's where I was because I didn't know this. Now, the big idea here is if you've got stress in the body, it causes stress in the mind because you feel like a lazy loser, as Dr. Ken said. You don't have the energy. You get to the end of the day, you're physically and emotionally dusted, and you feel like, what are you doing in life? What am I doing? I was always, why can't I just do this? Why am I always got anxiety? Why don't I step up? Why don't I put in the effort? Well, our hormones are working against us. We are stress-based instead of performance-based hormones. Time to bring this home. So this was the first video. What we have to do is demand more muscle mass. We have to better rise to challenges to push up testosterone. We have to train smarter in the gym and eat smarter. We have to select foods that boost nitric oxide, that clear away that artery clogging plaque. And we also have to boost growth hormone. So as you can see, if we demand all of that, that's when we can start to rebuild ourselves. Growth hormone is rebuilding the testicles, the brain, the heart, the arteries, the bone, all of that. Nitric oxide is cleaning out the plaque. It's also causing great blood pressure. If we train smarter in the gym, we're pushing up testosterone, keeping cortisol at healthy levels. And when cortisol is at healthy levels, that's when we kick ass. Remember, if cortisol is too high, free T is aromatized to estrogen and we feel like shit. And if we start packing on the muscle because we're doing all those other things that I just mentioned, and I'll unpack how to train in the gym as we progress through this, then we can win. We can get our shit together. We can rise up and attack the day with fucking fury. So if you like these videos, join the conversation below and let me know what you think about the system. Do you think the system is designed for us to get what we want from life? And why are they brushing off low testosterone? Why aren't they talking about, optimizing testosterone, thyroid hormone, nitric oxide, growth hormone, all of those things that show clearly in the scientific literature, this is what gives us peak human performance and helps us live a very powerful, strong life. So when you get this right, you feel completely different. And that's the damn point. I just have got no idea why the system just brushes this all off and gives us drugs. As you heard from Dr. Ken, they all lower testosterone. And everything that the system says comes true. Our testosterone plummets, our manhood shrinks. The very equipment that make testosterone shrinks. Think about that. But you can fix that when we get this right. So again, if you've got any comments you want to put down below, what your thoughts are on this, do that. And remember, we can get it back. We can rebuild ourselves. And that's the whole point. We can do this. It's not a cakewalk. It takes time and dedication and hard work. But most of all, it takes courage. Now, what pushes up courage? Testosterone. What pushes up energy? Testosterone. So don't brush this off. Don't wait, because you don't want to get to 60 or 70 and be left scratching your head wondering what the hell happened. Well, you can see what's happening. The system isn't there to optimize us men.